We're going to plan a little flight from the Flight Insight home airport at College Park in Maryland to a nearby Class Delta, Frederick. As you can see on SkyVector, it's a pretty short, straight flight. There's one major complication though. College Park lies within what's called the Flight Restricted Zone, or FRZ. This is an area surrounding Washington, D.C. and some of the Maryland and Virginia suburbs that is almost completely off limits to general aviation flights. College Park is one of the 3 GA airports located within the zone, so operating into and out of this field carries some additional burden. Firstly, we need to have completed FAA training and been vetted by the TSA. College Park Airport has a helpful guide going through this process linked here. After getting approved, you'll receive a PIN code. This is required whenever you file a flight plan into or out of the FRZ. It's supposed to be kept secret so that only you have the code. Don't give it out to anyone but the ATC specialist when you file your flight plan. To file, the process looks a bit different than what you're used to. You may have filed flight plans with Flight Service or with ForeFlight or something, but that's completely not allowed for the FRZ. You must file your flight plan over the phone, and it must be with the Air Traffic Control Facility at Washington Center. The idea is that you need to give your super secret PIN code each time you file, and only the ATC controllers, not a flight briefer or third party, have the privileges to know this number. The rules for the FRZ involve exiting and entering by the most expeditious route possible. Our direct route to Frederick will keep us in the FRZ longer than the authorities might like, so we're going to want to exit College Park on a more northerly route. We'll use the Belts intersection to give us a more direct route out of the FRZ, but there's no specific point you're required to head to. Now, most of the flight plan will look the same as what you're used to for any VFR, IFR, or other DCSFRA flight plan. One big difference is that our destination won't be the airport we're landing at, Frederick, but the part of the Special Flight Rules area, SFRA, we plan to leave through. If you've flown into or out of the DCSFRA, you're familiar with the gates system. The SFRA is split up like a pie into sections. These gates are named on the sectional and tack charts too. Our flight plan will have us leaving the SFRA through the Woolly Gate. That's what our destination will read as in the flight plan. The FRZ doesn't have gates, so even though we're filing a FRZ flight plan, we're still using the SFRA gates. A little more to the west, on the left side of that line marking the 341 radial from the DCA VOR, is where the Lucky Gate starts. Frederick is just a few miles outside the SFRA, so as soon as we're clear of the airspace, we'll be dealing with Tower there to coordinate our arrival. Most people call Washington Center to file their flight plan prior to the flight, or from the aircraft prior to departure, but definitely don't call during the flight. Again, this is not like filing with Flight Service where it can be done over the radio. It has to be done over the phone so no one else listening in on frequency can hear your super secret PIN code. The first thing you'll tell the controller is that you'd like to file a FRZ flight plan. They'll typically ask for your name and PIN number to validate it. You'll then read off the details of your flight plan the same way you would to a briefer. We're departing College Park, KCGS, and going to the Woolly Gate. It'll take about 20 minutes. We'll be at say 2,000 feet, certain amount of fuel, certain amount of people on board. We'll give our aircraft ID, type, and equipment. Center can actually save our aircraft data so that the next time we call, the process is a bit speedier. Once on file, we're still not quite ready for departure. We need to get a squawk code and frequency to contact Potomac departure once airborne. From College Park, there's a landline number to call to get this from Potomac, listed here in ForeFlight, and it's also in the chart supplement. They'll answer the phone and you'll give your aircraft ID and say you're looking for a squawk and frequency at a College Park, which they'll assign to you. You'll enter that in now. You want to be on that code in squawking altitude mode prior to departure. So we'll make all necessary CTAF calls and depart. Once clear of the pattern, we'll switch over to departure and check in with them. Typically just something like Potomac departure, Skyhawk 518 Foxtrot Tango is off College Park VFR. They'll say transponder observe, remain clear of class Bravo, Washington altimeter 3000, which you can then read back. The phrase transponder observed is used rather than radar contact because we're not getting radar services like we would on flight following or an IFR flight, though Potomac is usually pretty good about providing traffic advisories. Now, again, we're trying to exit the FRZ as quickly as possible, regardless of what our direct route is. ATC won't say anything when we're outside of the FRZ, but once we are, note that we're still inside the SFRA, the larger 30-mile ring around DC, so those rules are still in effect. We'll continue talking to Potomac and squawking our assigned code the entire time we're inside that area. When we reach the Woolly Gate, we know that we're very close to the class Delta for our destination, Frederick, so we turn to the north to give us time to set up before entering. When we're outside the SFRA, Potomac will tell us we can squawk VFR and change frequencies. You need to wait to hear that before switching, even if you've already left the SFRA. This is why it's helpful to stay clear of the Delta, since there can be a delay in switching over. We'll make our initial call to Frederick Tower and get instructions to enter the left downwind for runway 23. All in all, a pretty uneventful exit from a FRZ airport. Getting approved for the freeze and receiving a PIN keeps getting easier, with many people reporting that the turnaround time is about a week. If you want to visit DC, definitely look into getting the freeze PIN and studying the entry and exit procedures for airports like College Park. Hope to see you here, and in the meantime, check out our website for more training today.